Natural-born citizen. Yes. Here is the law. Quote, no person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of President, which is why we don't have a President Schwarzenegger. Ted Cruz on his eligibility. Quote, as a legal matter, the question is quite straightforward and settled law. People will continue to make political noise about it, but it is a legal matter. It is quite straightforward. Now, I always thought it meant you had to be born on American soil, American embassy maybe, or an overseas military base and so on, something which was considered American soil. Constitutional law professor Mary Bridget McManamon, quote, the concept of natural born comes from common law, and it is that law the Supreme Court has said we must turn to for the concept's definition. On this subject, common law is clear and unambiguous. So, she agrees with Ted Cruz and then doesn't. She goes on to say, the 18th century English jurist William Blackstone, the preeminent authority on it, declared natural-born citizens are, quote, such as are born within the dominions of the Crown of England, while aliens are, quote, such as are born out of it. So, it's like your belly button. It's an innie or it's an outie. It's one or the other. The key to this division is the assumption of allegiance to one's country of birth. So that's important. The United States Supreme Court has maintained that, quote, the acquisition of citizenship by being born abroad of American parents was able to be determined by Congress, quote, in the exercise of the power conferred by the Constitution to establish an uniform rule of naturalization. Naturalization is not the same as being natural born. You know, you can be born through the vagina or you can be born through the C-section, as they say in Macbeth, from his mother's womb, untimely ripped, but it's sort of one or the other. The first Congress of the United States passed the Naturalization Act of 1790, making children born outside of the United States territory citizens upon birth, provided that they are born to at least one American parent. Because this form of citizenship comes from law, which is naturalization, and not the Constitution, it means that such citizens are not natural born. Law professor Jack Balkin from Yale, quote, natural, in natural born, doesn't mean biological, it means naturally. That is automatically happening without any further intervention, right? So if you're born in America, you're American. If you have to become American as the result of a prior act of Congress naturalizing you, that is not the same as natural born. So Ted Cruz was born in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, not part of the United States, on December 22nd, 1970. Don't I feel young? His mother was an American citizen and his father was born in Cuba. In addition to Canadian citizenship at birth, he gained United States citizenship under naturalization laws, but he is not a natural-born citizen as specified in the Constitution, according to a variety of legal experts. And we'll get more into the laws behind this in a moment. So Cruz's professor, Lawrence Tribe from Harvard, quote, it's a serious cloud. Right, this question of whether he's even eligible to run for president, it's a serious cloud. It has to be taken seriously. It's not just a matter of coming up with great talking points or winning some debate. I think he does a disservice to the Constitution and the country when he thinks he can slide his way around this serious constitutional issue. Conservative author and lawyer Ann Coulter, quote, the best argument for Cruz being a natural-born citizen is that in 1790, the first Congress passed a law that provided, quote, the children of citizens of the United States that may be born beyond sea or out of the limits of the United States shall be considered as natural-born citizens. Except the problem is neither that Congress nor any Congress for the next 200 years or so actually treated them like natural-born citizens. Supreme Court, Schneider versus Rusk, 1964, quote, we start from the premise that the rights of citizenship of the native-born and of the naturalized person are of the same dignity and are coextensive. The only difference drawn by the Constitution is that only the natural-born citizen is eligible to be president. Everything's the same. The Constitution says only one thing you can't do, and that's run for president. Now, of course, this is back in the day when coming to America was signing out a form, coughing into a bag, and wandering into New York. And so people were concerned, of course, that at a time when nationalism was a greater force than it is now, that people had to be born in the country to assume leadership of it because they'd be much more likely to have loyalty to it as opposed to somebody who came in from outside. It is also worth noting that the Naturalization Act of 1795 superseded the previous act, and the term natural-born citizens was changed to just citizens. So, if your claim is a 5-year ambiguous gap in law from 221 years ago, the latter part of which is not decided in your favor, it might be considered a tad shaky. Ted Cruz. Under long-standing U.S. law, Naturalization Act of 1790, the child of a U.S. citizen born abroad is a natural-born citizen. If a soldier has a child abroad, that child is a natural-born citizen. That's why John McCain, even though he was born in Panama, was eligible to run for president. If an American missionary has a child abroad, that child is a natural-born citizen. I don't want to speak for his wife, but I will say that Cruz's missionary position is quite incompetent. Of course, he's not saying that... John McCain was born in a military environment, and therefore that is American soil. And so it's hard to really argue how that is going to work. Senator John McCain on Cruz's eligibility, quote, I don't know the answer to that. I know it came up in my race because I was born in Panama, but I was born in the Canal Zone, which is a territory. It was a U.S. military base. That's different from being born on foreign soil, so I think there is a question. I am not a constitutional scholar on that, but I think it's worth looking into. I don't think it's illegitimate to look into it. Donald Trump. Cruz did not renounce his Canadian citizenship as a U.S. senator only when he started to run 15 months ago for President of the United States. He could be Canadian Prime Minister. Okay, yeah, just a reminder, 15 months ago, he renounced his Canadian citizenship. Now, several lawsuits have been filed questioning Cruz's eligibility to run for POTUS, but questions as if they will have standing to bring such claims remain unresolved. The Supreme Court has never directly ruled on the citizenship provision for presidential office holders, and thus legal uncertainty remains. Now, the Supreme Court, a little bit on the left. I just want to give you a scenario where Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton is facing up against Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz wins. This goes to the somewhat leftist Supreme Court. Who do you think they're going to vote in favor of? I mean, for heaven's sakes, they violated the Constitution by forcing Americans to buy health care insurance or under Obamacare. Do you really think that they're going to vote in a not that ambiguous legal sense? Are they really going to vote to keep Ted Cruz in office when, with one stroke of a pen, they could put a fellow leftist into power? Come on, people. This is real politics. This is not abstract philosophy. Financial backing in July 2015. A network of 4 related Keep the Promise political action